Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video we will be looking at AQA Alevel Psychology Specimen 2 Paper 1 Exemplar Answers for Attachment, which you need to know for AQA Alevel Psychology. I hope you enjoy this video and find it helpful. Let's get started. Please note that these answers have been produced with knowledge of the mark scheme but have not been approved by the mark scheme themselves. There are 3 assessment objectives, AOs, in psychology. In this video they are color-coded. AO1 Knowledge, purple. AO2 Application, blue. AO3 Evaluation, red and green. Question 1. Match each of the research findings 1, 2, 3 and 4 with one of the researchers A, B, C, D or E. Write A, B, C, D or E in the box next to the appropriate research finding. Use each letter once only. 4 marks. A. John Bowlby. B. Mary Ainsworth. C. Harry Harlow. D. Carl Lorenz. E. Rudolf Schaefer. 1. Infants form multiple, rather than monotropic, attachments. 2. Infants form monotropic, rather than multiple, attachments. 3. Contact comfort is essential to an infant's psychological health. 4. Through imprinting, newborns attach to the first moving object that they see. 1E, 2A, 3C, 4D. Question 2. Briefly discuss how researchers might address difficulties encountered when trying to investigate caregiver-infant interaction. 4 marks. 1 difficulty a researchers might encounter when trying to investigate caregiver-infant interaction is the context affecting the participant's behavior. This difficulty could be addressed by conducting the research in natural setting, e.g. the child's home, to increase the ecological validity. A second difficulty a researcher might encounter when trying to investigate caregiver-infant interaction is the problem of misinterpretation of data. This difficulty could be addressed by using statistical analysis and triangulation, combining multiple methods or sources, to enhance the validity of interpretations and collaborating with other researchers to provide additional perspectives. Question 3. Discuss the effects of institutionalization. Refer to the studies of Romanian orphans in your answer. 16 marks. Institutionalization refers to the process by which individuals are placed in institutions, such as psychiatric hospitals, orphanages, or correctional facilities, often for long periods. This can occur due to various reasons, including mental health issues, lack of family support, or legal circumstances. The term can also describe the impact of living in such environments on individuals, which may include dependency on the institution, changes in behavior, and difficulties in reintegrating into society after leaving. The effects of institutionalization include disinhibited attachment, delayed intellectual development, mental retardation, low IQ, impaired language and social skills, delayed physical and psychological development, lack of internal working model and quasi-autism. Disinhibited attachment is when infants do not know what counts as appropriate behavior towards strangers and are equally as friendly and affectionate towards everyone. It is characterized by attention-seeking and social behavior directed indiscriminately towards all adults, lack of fear of strangers, clinginess, inappropriate physical contact, lack of checking back to the parent in stressful situations. Delayed intellectual development, mental retardation, low IQ, is a significant lack of cognitive functioning compared to peers, which can manifest as difficulties in learning, reasoning, problem-solving, concentration, and communication skills. Children may struggle to meet developmental milestones, such as language acquisition, academic performance, and social interactions, and may require specialized support and interventions to help them reach their full potential. Children can catch up by 4 years old, if infants are adopted before the age of 6 months. Rutter et al., 1998, aimed to investigate whether early institutionalization had long-term effects on children's emotional and social development and whether these effects could be overcome with love and care. Michael Rutter and Edmund Sonugabach, 1998, conducted a longitudinal study and observed the effects of institutional care and privation. They followed a group of 165 Romanian orphans previously been placed in orphanages, aged 1 to 2 weeks old, with minimal adult contact, who were then adopted by UK families as part of the English and Romanian Adoptee (ERA) study. There were 3 conditions in the study. 58 were adopted before the age of 6 months, 59 were adopted between the ages of 6 months and 2 years, 54 were adopted between the ages 2 years and 4 years old. The institutionalized orphans were raised naturally by the loving families who adopted them. Their physical, cognitive, social and emotional development was assessed at ages 4, 6, 11, 15 and 22 to 25 years using standardized testing, interview and observation techniques. They were compared to a control group of 52 British children who were adopted before the age of 6 months within the UK. They found that at the time of adoption, 50% of the adoptees showed signs of delayed intellectual development and were severely malnourished and physically smaller. The control group did not display these deficits. At age 11, the mean IQ of those adopted before the age of 6 months was 102, for those adopted between 6 months and 2 years it was 86, and for this adopted after 2 years it was 77. With those who had been adopted before the age of 6 months catching up with their British counterparts. The variation in the extent to which children recovered from the effects of institutionalization correlated to the age at which they had been adopted. 74% of infants adopted after the age of 6 months showed signs of disinhibited attachment and delayed social problems with peer relationships. 9% of infants adopted before the age of 6 months showed signs of disinhibited attachment. They concluded that the negative effects of institutionalization could be overcome by sensitive loving and nurturing care. Separation from carers alone will not cause developmental problems, as the British children who were separated did not display developmental problems. Rutter, 2001, conducted a follow-up study and found that problems in attachment, hyperactivity and cognitive impairment could be linked to institutionalization. This was most apparent on children who endured long periods of institutional care, although about 20% showed normal functioning. Other apparent problems such as emotional problems, peer relationship problems and behavioral problems were concluded not to be linked to institutionalization. This suggested that specific effects are related to long-term institutional care and only within certain types of people. Therefore, individual differences in children also appear to play a role too in mitigating for developmental problems. A limitation of research into Romanian orphan studies and the effects of institutionalization is that it suffers from cultural bias. Romanian orphans were in a country with poorer education system, healthcare and a collapsed governmental regime in 1989. This could be argued to be the main contributing factor for under-resourced institutions having children who struggle physically and mentally, not institutionalization itself, when compared to Western institutions which have greater resources for their orphans. This is a limitation because it suggests that the findings from the Romanian orphan studies may not be universally applicable, as they are heavily influenced by the specific socio-economic and cultural conditions of Romania at that time. It raises the concern that the negative developmental outcomes observed in these studies could be attributed more to the systemic issues within the Romanian context rather than the inherent effects of institutionalization itself. This highlights the need for a more nuanced understanding of how cultural and environmental factors can shape the experiences and outcomes of children in institutional care. A limitation of research into Romanian orphan studies and the effects of institutionalization is that it lacks control over extraneous variables. Early studies of institutionalization were poorly controlled. The studies were often longitudinal and therefore, the Romanian orphans may actually display poor development, not due to institutionalization but other factors such as poor cognitive stimulation in care or training by staff. This is a limitation because it suggests that the negative developmental outcomes observed in the Romanian orphans may be confounded by other extraneous variables, making it difficult to isolate the specific effects of institutionalization. Without controlling for these factors, researchers cannot definitively conclude that institutionalization is the primary cause of the children's struggles. This undermines the validity of the findings and raises questions about the generalizability of the results to other contexts. A limitation of research into Romanian orphan studies and the effects of institutionalization is that the results may be affected by individual differences. Bowlby suggested that children who do not form a primary attachment within the sensitive period would be unable to recover. However, this is clearly not true of all children exposed to institutional care. Some children are not affected as much as others, while others appear to have physical and mental functioning in line with control groups that were not orphans. This is a limitation because it suggests that the developmental outcomes observed in the Romanian orphans cannot be solely attributed to the lack of primary attachments. The presence of individual differences implies that some children may possess resilience or other protective factors that enable them to cope better with the challenges of institutional care. This variability challenges Bowlby's assertion and highlights the complexity of child development, indicating that a one-size-fits-all approach may not be applicable in understanding the effects of institutionalization. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more content like this. Bye.